All right, as we settle into our restorative opener, we want to have a blanket set behind us. So, what I want you to start with, for some of us, it'll be a folded, two blanket folds that are about the height of a bolster. I already predict that I'm going to need one blanket, but some of us might like to have an extra cushion to support our neck. Keep in mind, supporting your neck, it's not good to make it really rounded. So I want you to just have caution. So one or two blankets, you probably end up with one, unless you like that extra cushion. Have your bolster horizontal, and you're going to sit in front of it with a block, okay? Your block buddy, and a sandbag nearby. And we have other props like a ball and another block and a belt. And so when you lower back and you feel the natural curve of the spine, in some ways you get that in your neck too. These areas got a lot of that contour because they're all vertebral. Okay. So I want you to push into your feet a little bit wider than hips distance apart and lift up the hips and slide the block so it's flat and lower your head back to the blankets. So your bolster is in the middle of it all. It's in your middle. Now, the bolster is there to support the breathing beginnings. If you're really close to the wall, it might feel exceptionally supportive. So I like to push my feet into the wall. If I'm pushing and my knees are a little bit slanted, I'll hold onto my bolster and slide just ever so slightly, sliding back, and then add my sandbag across my ribs. Feel where the front has the support across and into the contour of the ribs. So occasionally you might have this idea the sand should be really high, but you want to feel where it's customized for your circulation. So maybe it is kind of low. The higher you go with the sandbag might feel easier on your back. So keep that in mind. Also, bending your knees will feel easier on your back. So you decide. But let's begin to feel how our neck is supported. If you want one less blanket and you feel like your neck has enough, this is pretty much not a big neck support with one. But I do want to work on extending my neck versus flexing my neck in life. This is a little bit of the two. Stretch your arms open and consider when you elongate the front lines of the body that you relax the face. So settle into the beginning of restoring your inner environment. And hopefully we can stay centered for the whole session. Or parts of it if you need to take breaks. But in general, we want to experience the breathing and kind of the lift on the inhale and the release on the exhalation. The sandbag kind of fills you. It's interesting. It's a weight, but it also feels like a complete supportive breath. If your back is a little sensitive, remember, bend the knees. And if you want to endure that sensitivity, work on openness of the chest. Another thing you could do would be to have more height under your back, like an extra blanket or a rounded bolster. We want to keep the ribs really lifting. So there's only so far you can stretch them when you have a flat bolster, right? So that's a reason to try the props or add props so that we can successfully improve our breathing. Okay, now bend the knees and let's come into a soles of the feet together, knees out, cobbler pose, and feeling where that spine It's interesting how this responds in your lower back or your mid back. Really consider the shapes that we move through, how it corresponds with areas higher, not just the area that you feel the change in the bones. Okay, now if you have sand across the ribs, I want you to turn the sandbag so it goes from the heart towards the belly, so it switches, so that the movement path of the ribs, right, it kind of flushes out from where the sand is, spreads outwards and around the back. Okay, now move the knees to point up. Step down into the left foot and lift the right foot, the right leg, I suppose, and cross that right ankle to the left knee. And keep it pretty tidy here. I don't want you to try to let the right knee, just get too mobile. So if my right knee is still in a pretty kind of perky bend, I'm not trying to get more flexibility in that joint. In this pose, I want you to just get some muscular engagement into the hip. So again, your knee might be kind of pointing. If you look, it's kind of towards you. Some of us, it'll feel easy to let the knee kind of flop out, but don't flip out if it doesn't flop out. Okay, now take a moment where you do maybe feel if the knee shifts a little bit out. The right ankle is connected to that left knee, right? And so the foot itself is slightly separate from the knee. It's on the other side. Okay, now as you work with the breathing, take a moment here where the inhalation matters, that spreading of the breath. Exhaling center. The sand should feel like a little bit of a workout by having that sand. Okay, now when you step the right foot down, emphasize when you lower the foot that right side of the back releases down and stretch the right foot to the wall or straight down on the floor. So you push through that leg, you energize through the front of the hip, slide the right foot back, and bring the left ankle to the right knee. Just find the muscular kind of the sleeve here in the muscles. Feel how you just move that knee to point. It's okay if it's pointing up. It's fine if it moves out. Doesn't mean that you're a better poser. You might work with the quirks of it, like the quirks of having a knee and a hip connection, because this is an interesting layer of feeling how we're working on enabling the hip and the balancing motion out with the knee to help our hips out. And so just find where you start to feel that circulation. I don't necessarily want it to be a deep, deep stretch. We'll find it. Have no fear. We'll find more stretch. Okay, at this point, you might be moving back to one blanket under your head. If you did not start with that, this is a good time to change that. And now if that left thigh moves a little bit out, let it be, releasing, breathing. Okay, now uncross through that left foot and then slide the sand off to the side. Okay, you're going to, if you can maneuver that block under you and push it off to the side, it might feel comfortable for you to kind of not have it down or below. You can also just push the bolster down through it. It's fine too. Walk the feet in towards your seat and then lengthen your neck back on one folded blanket, okay? Lift up your hips and push the bolster down just a little bit, not too much in the beginning, because you can always push it down further. It's hard to get it back upwards. And then I want you to let the feeling of the pelvis is really pressing into the bolster when you lift your feet up. So you do want to have a sense of the weight of the pelvis on the bolster. Parts of that lower back might feel it, depends on your length. And then wobble a bit, get a ball or a block between the knees. And we're going to shift. I got to lower a little bit farther down. So my tailbone is really at the edge of that bolster. Okay, I'm in the middle of it. I'm making a dent in my bolster. Bring your arms to goalpost. Okay, and lift up the legs so the feet have the ascension here, and squeeze into the ball. If it's difficult to get some interaction with that, move the ball a little bit farther inwards, center, so it has a little grasp of it. It's kind of fun to work with the ball at the leg level because we're used to, all that kind of stuff with our hands. So get the legs to work. Now, as you reach up, you're in a little bit of an inversion. So I want you to soften through the knees, bend them, and then let the knees go to the right, both of them. You can't really isolate one from the other with the ball between. We'll call this the ball between twist. And then bring the knees back in center, inhale. Exhale to the left. Feet could be touching, they could be cuddling, right? They could be crossed over each other. In fact, if you can focus as you go side to side on the cumulative kind of effect of the movement across the back of the pelvis and into the hips. So if you go far down towards the floor with the knees, that's okay. I mean, you might kind of roll off your bolster and have to use your stomach muscles to get you back up, right? So that might happen. And it feels kind of good. It definitely starts to work the sides of the waist, the paraspinals. The arms are important for your support as well. I think all the parts are important here. Okay, now next time you come back in towards center, push up with the legs again, lift them up. They just swing up really, don't they? It's pretty easy. And circle the feet. Okay, so think of this sequence as kind of giving us an overall nice flush for the immune system as well. A lot of this chest opening, inversion patterns. I get kind of stuck on those sequences. So circling the other direction. And then find the feet to neutral and get your belt. Okay, all right. So you got the ball between or a block, okay? And I want you to push into it. If it's a ball, it's probably better because you got a surface that you can create resistance with so that's good for the bones, right? Resistance. It's a responsive surface. So push. And then noticing what part of the legs is active, right? For me, since I'm upside down, it seems to go towards the upper part because the blood flows there. And the lower legs, right, they don't have as much of that excitement going on. The calves don't feel a stretch, So let's go there. Let's bring the knees to the chest, and I want you to remove the ball. And first things first here, we'll let the left leg stretch down and clutch the back of the right thigh. Inhale, exhale. Switch sides, left leg, clutch the back of the leg. Even if you could hold your knee, do something easier on your knee joint. Just sense for a moment how close you are if you're near the wall on each foot. So take it to the other side one last time. Are you about the same? Do you have the same range of motion in your hip joint when you do this? It's a curiosity, I think. What our habits are, the areas that are more open on one side than the other. Okay, now bring the knees in and take the belt under the right foot, stretch the right leg up into the belt. And then as you pull, let the left leg lower down. You could put a sandbag on the left thigh. This is probably reasonable prop to add on. If you're on your back, it's a little bit of a struggle to get the sand over, but maybe it will adapt here. Okay, so let's take our belt with our hands and pull. Your left foot might touch the wall, but don't worry about getting it perfect there. If it seems to feel kind of nice to have your foot at the wall, you might reset your bolster a little farther down. So that's a kind of an optimal way to do this. So hold on, and as you're pulling, get that belt in a spot on the bottom of the foot so that you can actually kind of turn the foot. You can pivot it. So if you're looking at it, it's going a little bit left, a little bit right. You're stretching through the fascia. I feel that one direction is a lot easier than the other. Right, my foot turns in a little bit easier when I pull this way. So find the center and feeling the calf, I hope, with your stretch. And then see what it feels like to let the back of the pelvis relax. The leg is getting the work. Pull straight down. Should I pull towards my head? I want you to try to pull straight down. And if the heel tries to get a little bit higher, I'd be surprised if it's successful. And if you want to bend your right knee a tad and just explore, it's not going to be a big exploration. It's not going to suddenly take you down a new pathway in the back of the leg, but feeling if it adjusts at all. You try to keep that sand if you're using it on the left leg. And then I want you to bring the belt together and hold it just with the right hand. Place your left hand either on the thigh if you don't have a sandbag, or on the sandbag, and make small circles with that right leg. So hold the belt with your right hand. You can reach your hand up higher on the belt. I just find what's kind of a neutral position for my hand, not too much, not too slack. But my ambition really is, there is some ambition in this one for me, kind of ambitious with it, is to feel the circulation around the sitting bone, the connection into the hip. And it's just different to work on this area when you're not sitting on it, right? It's good stuff to be on your back and work with the circulation. They go both directions. Someone will have to remind me if I don't. Okay, now when you get a feeling of that, it doesn't feel like it loosens a lot. I know it's not that extreme, but it's enough, right? We want to get some nice kind of regularity of positive circulation, not overdo it. Okay, so slide the sand across the abdominal, the abdomen. Okay, and then bring the left foot up into the belt, let the right leg lower down, and when you switch, it's good not to do too much, I think, too. So turn the sandbag on that right side straight down the front of the thigh. First start with both hands holding the belt. Okay, don't ever do that sand. You know, if I have the sand higher up on the leg, it does hold easier. That's certainly true. And it might be the best thing for our bones, right? To have it high up at the femoral neck. So get it up there. Don't worry about how far down the knee it goes. Just basic good stuff. So pulling and flexing the foot. And just feel where there's that natural arch in the lower back. You can breathe into that natural arch, right? So when I inhale, I visualize the tail naturally arching. And then as I exhale, feel it elongate and draw under. It's so subtle, but that's how our spine has extension on inhale. and flexing the foot, pulling, maybe a softening of the knee. If it's shaky, bend the knee a bit. And if your right foot is turning out excessively, just slide the foot a little over to the right side, even if it's kind of off of your mat. Okay. Now a little bit of the held finale here when you're pulling firmly. Reaching through the sitting bone, like you're lengthening from the heel to the seat. And then jostle the tissues a bit. Hold the belt together with your left hand. Place the right hand on the sandbag and just going in towards circling with the hand holding the belt and the belt's holding the foot, and there's movement. Just circling and feeling. If you, on one side, you might like go in one direction longer. So just feel what is the right pace and reach from the sitting bone to the back of the leg. And there's all these different segments of the leg, right? There's not a lot, there's not that many segments, but you can feel the top part to the knee and then below. It's a good pose to get kind of all of it, isn't it? It's different than legs up, right? As far as its circulation. Okay, now next time you shift back in towards center, slide the sand off of the thigh. In fact, let's slide the sand or toss it over to the left side of your mat. Okay, and bring both feet up into your belt. Push the feet out wide, stance, a wide stance, holding the belt, or buckle it up together, and then you don't have to hold it. Right, so if you buckle the belt, that might be a little easier, but I'm not going to spend energy on it. This is good for me. So push out and feel where the hips, now there is an advantage to using the arms if it doesn't hurt your fingers, right? You're creating that circulation back to the heart. The arms are active, but if they're exhausted, then buckle up and let the legs take over. But reverse that gravitational pull on the muscles and then back to the heart. Okay, now pull firm. If you aren't holding onto your belt, then bend the knees and reach for the belt and slide the feet to each other. Pull and then bend them and slide the belt off of your feet. And let's bring the knees so as they go back and forth, side to side. Belt goes off to the side. And if you've got blocks over on the right, I want you to put one of your blocks to the left so you're prepared for where we're going. And then a ball over to the left. And not too much on the left side right next to your bolster because you're going to roll into them. But you're going to roll left and use your arms a little bit behind your bolster. And then roll, slide your hips down to the other side of the bolster. And then voila. Right? You're into a shape that you can start to contour the hips. Oh, wait, this is something I want to add today. If you've got a ball, turn back towards the wall, place it under your back, well, actually just where it touches from the bolster to when you lean back into it, and going side to side, massaging into the back. Sometimes the ball really sticks to your clothing and doesn't move very well. But you can work around it. Okay, so feeling that the ball is under you and you're rotating side to side, massaging into the back and between the blades. You could lower back a little bit, hold your head though, if you're going to lean back, and let the body squiggle a little bit side to side. Okay, so get some circulation up into that upper branches of the lungs. Okay. Yeah, you're usually doing all your swivel work with your back, but the front has some support. Now roll left. Okay, take the ball to the right thigh and get ready for side sage on the left hip down. Okay, So let's take a blanket stack behind us. Now we need them all. And we need the block behind the blankets overhead. Set it up so it's high enough. So now when you lean in, get everything on so it feels all supportive. And we'll add the sand to the side of our waist or hip. Yeah, this seems like it's gonna stay, but I'm not so confident, so I'm gonna turn it. Okay, what I like to do with the sand support is feel like it gives a little traction. So I know the length, the side sometimes feels really nice to press into, but be sure that you're confident it's not gonna fall off, okay? So I lean into my bolster like heavily, like I'm letting all my weight, this part of the body where it's bulky, because the prop is bulkiest in the center versus a blanket, it seems like my body kind of gives in on that, just lets go, gets that massage into the left side, okay, into the organs, a little bit of a squish. Okay, then the part that I find is challenging to rest into is my head. You don't have to burrow down into your blankets, but it's not a bad idea when you reach your arm over to the block on the other side to maybe let your head lean to the left, like you're almost going to turn your head, but you can't really turn to look down into anything because it's just a blanket. But feel where the spatial reaches through the torso. And let the inhalation kind of ride the breath, ride the feeling of the ribs moving. And whatever's going on, this is a nice practice just to absorb into helping out your inner environment. Yeah, thank goodness for practice. So resting the face. If you have any inquiry into an area that feels kind of stuck and you want to, jiggle a little bit in the shoulder or the arm direction and the ribs, go for it. Arm can stay overhead and it can also go back onto the side or down to the bolster or the blankets. There's options. Feeling how you're moving in the rib spaces. The dominant ones are what's revealed on the side, right? There's ribs higher, but the arm kind of changes that the volume when it's reaching for like the upper ribs and the clavicle, right, in the upper chest. That's kind of not supported when the arm goes over. So let's work a bit with that. So I want you to let the right arm lower down. Maybe it opens towards the ceiling to feel that circulation. You might roll on the back of your head. I mean, there's always further to go on this one. So, but the ability to rotate for most of us is an exercise, right, that we do, is to rotate. It's doing something to make it happen, right? So feel where the arm stretches open the chest if you're trying this, and then feel when you find it easy to go back to the left, and then move the sand over to just let it drop over to the left, push it off the leg, and then come on up. And we're going to do a seated series on both sides, and then we'll get to the other side stage. So first thing, have your block from behind you towards the front, towards your feet, and then take a seat on your bolster And you're going to bring your right, let's see, so we had right side we were stretching. So let's put our block under our right foot. So the block's gotta be flat. I actually have not seen this taught with the block high, but I'm curious, but it doesn't make sense because you don't want your knee to go that high. So just have to think, oh, I wonder what that would be like. All right, so let's put a ball under the left knee, and we're also gonna put a sandbag on the left thigh. Okay, so we've got a right foot on a block, we've got a sandbag on the left thigh, and a ball under the knee, that knee. Okay, so if your sitting bones are feeling a little bit not seated, you can kind of draw the flesh out. Sometimes that helps. You don't want to overdo that, but you certainly want to feel like you're not halfway on one buttock, that kind of thing. All right, so find your center of the heart lift. You kind of have to exaggerate the spine's movement to get the heart to lift. Okay, turn to your left side, which reaching your left hand to the right knee. Bring the right hand back to maybe a stack of blankets, huh? And feel the twist. I found out. So when I reach to my knee, I tend to pull it a little bit. Okay, let the knee relax. Just hold the knee. Don't have to pull it like aggressively and yank it up. Just hold on to it. Below the kneecap, feel the twist. Okay, try to twist, try to turn to the right. Okay, use the arms to help you out. Okay, now let's stretch our left arm out on the floor or a block if this is too low, because it is kind of low. Reach your left hand out besides your bolster and stretch the right side of the torso. Reach the right arm over. It's just like you were doing moments ago when you were in side sage. Okay, but the left arm, it could be on the floor, the hand could be down. Yeah, I kind of like this one if I have my block a little bit higher and then my elbow on it. Oh, that feels good. Then I can kind of disengage from the effort in my hand. So you could put your block up even higher. If you have extra blocks at home, you can add another one on top. So I know you can go get a stool. Okay. All right, so feeling the ribs reaching. Okay, we'll take that reach of the right arm up and we're gonna turn to the right, careful in the neck, rotate to the right again, hold below the right knee, twist. Okay, I know we're all guilty of front to yank the leg. I mean, I know that that's happening. So feel the abdominals also have some movement. Remember, the thoracic spine, the center chamber is where you want to get most of the twist. Okay, and your seat might be kind of almost on the edge of the bolster. Okay, now we're going to come back center and just let the right leg stretch out to the right side. Take that block besides the right leg, lean your right elbow onto it and reach the left arm over the side of the face. Yeah, the hands can relax. You don't have to grip with your fingers. You can feel with that left arm. Good, so feel the ribs turn. Rotate with the breath. Even if you turn your head to look down to the right side, you're still feeling that left rib cage. Okay, left arm stretches and reaches behind your back. Okay, so just feel where that length is. No, actually not length, but really the width into the waist. You know, just imagine there's a string at the top of your head and it's going to pull you up. And you're going to sit upright and slide the right foot in. Now we just had this left side working. So I want you to slide the left foot or right foot in. Left foot's going to step on, it's not step, but reach up onto the block. And then we're going to keep going with that side. So you're going to put your ball under the right knee. You're going to move your sand to the right thigh. And if you got a little bit of room besides your bolster over here on the right, take your block or your hand onto the floor and you can put your elbow on the block and back again to that. But now the left knee is bending, right? The foot is on the block, low block. Stretch the left arm over and try to get that left leg to to disengage from trying to lift up like that. You want to let it just roll open. It's interesting. Right, so if you have a lower leg, well, a part that releases out, the waist can stretch. Let the breath roam through the ribs. Try to keep that roaming feel through the rib spaces, and let the left elbow lift up and open. Turn to your left, right hand to the left knee, and turn. Yeah, and just feel how soft you can be with it. So reasonable, you grasp onto the knee and you'll pull, but see if you can adapt so it's softer. And you can be softer with yourself with the practice. So turning. It's a twist. Okay, and then come back towards that right arm down to the right side, left arm lifts up and over, same thing. Different moment. The other moment's gone. So we're trying to unravel through the waist. So this arm reaching, if you get like the labor feels like it's in the shoulder joint and you're kind of tapped out, you can always bring your left arm behind your back here. It's always fine. But I'm trying to get my ribs kind of a little bit more blood flow in the center area, so my arm is not as tired. So try to get the ribs to work, the intercostals, and then take one more of these twists. So you're going to turn to the left again, right hand, now let the knee kind of lower down. Right, when you turn it could be really subtle. Swallow, relax the throat. You know, feel how you turn the turnstile through the right into the solar plexus, the twist. You know, you might even put your finger pads right at the way below the sternum, but I'm pushing in right where my ribs intersect, and I turn back center. Now I let the left leg stretch out. I'm going to get my block and put it besides the left leg up high, and lean the left elbow down to that left side, and right arm stretches over. So going through all the body spaces, right? The side work is kind of unraveling the front spaces and the back spaces. Okay, taking a breath. Feel the reach. And now right arm goes down, and then when you come up, take the sand off and over to the right. Bring the feet both forward, bending the knees, and slide off the bolster, down forward, and then turn to your right. Block goes back, right hip down next to the bolster, ball back to the left knee, and then go into that side sage. Now, if you feel like, well, I kind of like that ball under the back, what she did last time, you could go a little bit with this before you get to your side sage. You know, it feels kind of nice. It kind of hooks into this back muscular kind of binding that we have, right? So when you're leaning down, yeah, you can't really put the ball into your ribs here. That would be popping the ball. Okay, so stand on the side, feel what works out this side. Sometimes you go, oh, this adapts different with the sandbag. You might feel like this feels a little easier with the sand along the side versus horizontal. But when you do gain that action of the arm overhead, you know, get a feeling. I've got 2 blankets stacked under my head. And let the weight, even though the neck probably does so much work to hold the head here, even on your side, you've got to purposely rest your head and then stretch the left arm over. Yeah, relax the buttock muscles. Try to let the work happen in the hip flexor in the front and in the side band of the waist. breathing slow. Let the final moments here be really about the weight of your head resting and that circulation across the middle of the body expanding and resting. As we shift the sand on the side over to the right, okay, we're going to feel how the ribs, I know the feeling of the bones, the weight of the legs is obvious, but do what you can to help the circulation in the breathing muscles. So when you roll to the right, you're going to push into your hips to come up and then remove the ball. And let's come around to hands and knees, and our feet are close to a wall. Okay? All right, so you'll need your blankets. Actually, just leave your props like they are if you can. You have your bolster across. And let's have the bolster so that when you are with your hands on the other side on the floor, I think it's right under my navel. I'm pretty sure. You don't want it too far back. Hey, let's test it. So let's see if this is the right. So lean forward into what would be feeling the hip flexor stretching, extending. You want the bolster to feel like it's in front of the thigh lids. Well, it's more than the thigh lids, I know. Okay, so now we'll come back to table. My feet are pushing, so I don't have my feet walking up the wall, but the balls of the feet are pushing into it. If this hurts you, ignore the wall, go farther away. Okay, go forward, that's fine. But feel when there's some energy that's pushing into the arms. There's like a threshold that you have with the arms. So you want to turn the hands a little bit out. Some of us will go a lot because it's easier on the wrist. And we'll round the back, chin to chest, cat pose. And we'll arch, reaching the chest forward. Alternate rounding and arching. Okay, go slow. Go slow with it. So when you move your back, take it a few more times. I'm going to get a sip of. Okay, feel where there's movement. I find my movement chamber is through, it's not kind of through the roof with what's behind the heart, but I'm trying to travel through the chest when I arch forward. Now finally feel that you move in the throat a little bit, especially when you bring your chin back. So I can't say it's quenching, but my idea is chin to chest. Okay, now come forward, hips down, elbows on the blankets. Now I push into my feet at the wall. My forehead comes down to my hands. Push into the wall, let the knees come off the ground if you can. Okay, now if the knees are kind of grazing the ground, that's fine. But I want you to try to get the front of the thighs actively extending. So I'm kind of reaching a bit in my thigh lids. You could stay with this with your head off of your arms. It's a little bit more exciting for the waist, but don't get too, like that's going to benefit your abdominals that much. So I like this position with my head down, and then I focus on spanning my breath in my ribs. So for me, put head down is better because I can kind of fill up that chamber with the breath. It's hugely important for our breathing muscles just to try to work with this stuff with energy in the breath. When else are you going to do it? Okay, now lower down the knees, and we're going to walk the hands back, and we're going to kind of puff up this back area. So when you bring the hips back, I think I need a blanket for this one. So I'm going to slide a blanket on the other side of the bolster closer to the wall. You could use two. And then bring both legs back and up. So come back into dog pose. Heels are down towards the base of the wall, or they could be a little bit up. This feels good to me to have my heels up. Although I sure feel in my arms. If my heels go down, it's a stress in my legs and in my hamstrings, right, and my calves as well. But it still feels like it's in my arms too. Okay, now I want you to keep that sense of lifting in the hips. Okay, bend the knees. Bring the right knee forward across the bolster into pigeon pose. Left thigh back, foot touches the wall. You can bring your hands up to the bolster to come into a full lifted pigeon. And most of us are going to want to go into sleeping pigeon. So we'll be down on the elbows on the blanket or the firm ground, and maybe take a block under our forehead. I like the block here at the hairline. It's an interesting angle on the neck, I think, when it's here, holding on to your head. But some of us don't want anything to do with a block poking us in the forehead, so I understand. But I like to just try something different than, I don't do this any other time of the day. Poking your head with a block, huh? All right, so feel the circulation in the hip. If you have the ambition, you can put a sandbag across the back of your pelvis, but it's already enough for most of us just to be in this position. Okay? To try to finagle the sandbag could be overdoing it. So feel where the hips are tilting, and feel where the back foot does touch the wall, maybe, and some of us, maybe it's not. Okay? And now feel where the spine is leading into an arch, right? You have a natural tilt. So good for it. So maintain that, and then walk your hands back. If you can easily switch here, let the weight lean into the right thigh, bring the left thigh forward and across, and the right leg stretches back into pigeon now on the left thigh, bending forward. So my hands are on either supporting that natural arch. Okay, the more you do it, the more natural it's going to feel. That's for sure. And then when you lower down onto the forearms, feel where that tilt is. Don't over tilt it, just feel where your natural arch is. If the hip is really sensitive to this, it's just a lot. You can always stuff a blanket, like another one of these, or a towel under the left buttock. You could also use a ball, right? Even though the ball looks like, well, that's awfully big, it's not going to stick under my rear. You can kind of slant it to the side. You'd be surprised how supportive that can be for my hip. It supports my hip. It also takes the pressure off of my knee. So it's an interesting option. Doesn't matter how it looks. It's just that you have somehow held the ball there, right? If you have a ball that has these teeth on it, right, it has the nubs, it'll probably, it'll hold you. It'll hold onto the seat. So center, if you're forward and down, you could still use the ball. It's not going to hurt anything. It's only going to help the hip. Okay, now feel where the waist is trying to center. It's not trying to elongate as much as it's centering. Breathing. Okay, now feeling where your weight is leaning into that left hip. Okay, we're gonna come back actually into hands and knees. We're gonna keep working the strength here. So try to stay with it a little bit. So when you move, if you have a ball under that left side, move it aside. And then taking the hand, centering down. You don't worry about the block, it can stay over there. But when you press into your hands, you can feel the work into your wrist, into your shoulder. So it's a load, right? It's weight bearing. So I push back and I'm going to alternate bending the knees. I'm not going to worry about, kicking a wall or anything here or touching it. I'm just bending the knees one at a time and just moving my hips a little bit back and forth. So feel the movement through the back of the legs, down into the calves. If you kind of slide out a little bit, that's okay. You got a wall, don't you? Okay, so feel where the heels reach down towards the base. Okay, now we're going to try a lunging pattern, and I don't think we love bolsters in the way on this one. So lower down the knees and slide the bolster. In fact, we will be using it right at the wall directly there. So just push it back to the wall and take a block, set, and hands on top of the blocks at the second setting and step the right foot between them. And as you feel that movement of the lunge, I want you to create a reach through the front of the back thigh. So lift the chest up, inhale, and then exhale. Go into a reverse lunge. So if you need to scoot yourself or your blocks out to the side, do so, but let your head lower down to that right leg. Yeah, I can feel this one for certain. So reverse lunging. If it's been a while since you did a reverse lunge, you can feel it. Okay. The right foot doesn't have to do anything to feel it. So step into the right foot and feel the mobility. I want you to alternate lunging. Just be careful your knee doesn't go over your toes. And then leaning back. I like to be closer to the wall for this one and really feel my foot touch the wall. Leaning back and then forward. Lunge. Lift up the chest. You can make the blocks higher if it feels like you don't have enough support. Okay, you could put these up a little bit so when you lunge, your knee is down, you're arching and reversing. Okay, let's take two more. Knee on the blanket. Back knee is down. And lean back. Okay, next time you take that lunge, center. This is good stuff here. So feel where the thigh in the back is lengthening. Okay, stretch the right arm up towards the sky and turn to the right, lifting through that right arm, breathe. Okay, lower the hand down, and then I want you to take a step forward with your left foot. This is why I like the wall behind me. I can push off of the wall and spring forward, bring the feet about hips distance, and then take a forward bend of choice. It could be two blocks go farther out and you have a little bit more support for your forward fold. It could be hands hold your elbows and let the spine stretch. You feel this mostly in leg parts maybe, but the spine does obviously have movement here. So let the weight of your head lower down, breathing. Let your head maybe nod a little bit side to side. However your arms are, if they're in front on the blocks, you can still nod your head side to side. Get a little bit of that turn of the neck and that circulation. Breathing, make sure the knees are not squeezing together, they're apart. Great, now bring the blocks back if they're in front of you besides your feet. If you're in elbow crisscross, uncross. Okay, now stabilize so that the knees are bending. And when you step the right foot back, you might go, oh, my hip feels tense. So when you step back, reach with both legs. So the left knee bends and reaches forward. I'm sure it has to bend, huh? And you can start with a lunge with the knee off of the blanket at first, so you have a little more energy driving up into your spine. Okay. So lower the back knee to the blanket, inhale, lunging up with the chest, and exhale, reverse lunge. Left foot, toes up. Inhale forward, arching. Exhale back, flexing the front foot. And let's do a few more. So when we feel that movement, you can pace yourself according to the reach of the material in the body that you don't connect to often, which is the front organ space, abdominal muscles, and the back space, lengthening, pushing. Now, last time you come into that lunge, turn to the left, don't overthink it, just lift the left arm up and reach through the rib space, turning. Good, and then lower the hand down, and then taking that reverse lunge one more time, flexing the left foot, feel the hips in their direction back. Let this be sort of an interesting part, the hips moving back. Okay, hands on support on blocks, I hope. And then step the left foot back, and we'll take our blocks over to the side. Doesn't matter what side, but I don't want mine in the view for you. And you're gonna turn, so you're gonna roll onto sitting and taking one blanket behind you in a quarter fold and a bolster next to the wall, base, all the way at the base, flat. And then I want you to bring your feet up on top of the bolster. And actually, you can bring your feet on the wall. So if you've got your wall space, your feet are up on it, and you can feel that natural tilt in the lower back. So just notice that right now, the natural arch. Okay. Let your hands rest on the lower waist so you can kind of feel near abdominal or abda, the swelling of the abdominals, right, with your inhale. The dome, abdomen. So when you feel that span of movement with the lower abdominal area. Okay, now I like the feet at the wall. I like that support for my back. It also feels like it kind of kicks in the stretch of the back of the upper leg too. Okay, so now let's take a ball and we'll place it between the knees. You might have to bring your knees in to get the ball there. And this one's sort of an adaptive one. So I find that if my hands are down on the floor, besides my hips, I'm going to inhale, abdominals expand, and then exhale, squeeze the ball. So the abdominals will move, right, with your in and out breath, but just focus on squeezing and releasing now. So you don't have to get too overly eager about what's going on with the breath. You're just squeezing the ball and relaxing your grip. And squeezing and relaxing. So the feet are at the wall, up on it. You could do the same thing with the feet on a bolster, but it's a different sensation in the back of the legs for certain, but we are going to get there. And I want you to notice that when you push in, you squeeze in, and you release, that whole inner span of muscles are already going on. They're with the program here. They're like, we didn't even have to sign up or make a choice. We like this program. So when you squeeze in, the next time you're going to relax the grip and then feel the back of the pelvis center like you're almost drawing the tailbone under. There's a little lower abdominal grip. And then lower the feet down. If you're too close to the wall and it hurts the knees, you can always scoot a little bit farther back. But you put the feet down on the bolster and lift the hips up into bridge pose. And you can have your arms down by the sides or overhead. It's all up to you. So alternate lifting and lowering. Now it seems like the movement of the arms is the most exciting. I know part of that. But sometimes I like to feel, I don't know if I like it, but I can feel the width of my upper back when my arms stay down. I like them both, arms overhead or arms down, but in this one, when I'm kind of tracing the touchdown of my spine, my arms down, I have less to focus on. Just the touchdown of the spine. Okay, now you could do this with your feet at the wall. This could happen. In fact, we've probably done this a little bit. The only challenge I have, I mean, you get higher on the spine this way, that's a benefit, is I kind of slide sometimes back. But you know, it just depends on what your clothing choices are, I think. Sometimes it does affect it. So right now it feels like I'm kind of stuck and it's working. But it just depends on what you got on. It really does. Okay. And wear Velcro. Okay. Now, next time you get the hips to lift up, you can have your feet at the wall or the bolster. And feeling where the rear muscles are active, we're pretty active here. Lower down the spine and get rid of the ball. You don't want to toss it away yet. We're going to use it one more time. So you're going to take a block or two, and you're going to now lift up the hips. Your feet could be at the wall or the bolster, and slide the block under the back of the pelvis. And then you can have your feet either at the wall. Okay, I'm adapting to this one pretty good. Or they could be down on the bolster. Okay, so bridge pose. Again, this is an inversion. So inversions are, you want to take the time to reverse that gravitational pull in the vital organs, to move the blood towards the heart. So it's helping your heart. So your pelvis is up, right? That's why we're calling it an inversion. Pelvis is lifted. Brain is back. It's not on top right now. So we can call this a mild inversion. And just let the spine feel it's some of its circulation, you know, dialogue here. Feel the natural arch. Feel the movement of the lower abdominals. Now, if your feet are up at the wall or you want to move them up to the wall, that's a good option. Feel that it brings just a little more circulation to your upper back. It's small, but it's important because it gets up towards the heart, or it's going down back to the heart and the lungs. So anytime we can put some pressure there and we can feel the pressure of our back on the ground and the circulation moving up, then we try to breathe and expand and improve that function. So it's just pure function, right? Functional, in some ways, functional medicine on this part. And I like the feet at the wall today. I'm not sliding. Okay. Now lower down the feet as low as they'll go as the bolster. Push down into your feet, lift the hips up. And as you feel that squeeze in the glutes, it's going to squeeze. You'll lower down through the spine. And as the spine centers, bring your knees towards your chest and circling. Just rotate around the outer rim of the sacrum. Okay, make it just simple, a couple times each direction. And then you're going to take the feet down to the bolster and push the bolster over to the right side of your mat. Turn it so I think you're going to need the ball for this and your sandbag. So if your bolster is on the side, it could be horizontal if you prefer. It doesn't have to be exactly besides it, but it's on the side. Bend the right knee and relax the knee over towards the bolster, but most importantly, cross the left leg onto the bolster. This is the important part. So the ball goes to the sacrum area, and the sandbag, we're going to place it on the outer left thigh. Okay, so Enjoy when you have that circulation across. Give us several minutes on this one. So get yourself supported. What's below you, what's on top of the leg as well. And then stretch your left arm open. Okay, let your head roll to the left. If you feel like you don't have enough of a blanket under your head, you could always add a little bit of the other one. But again, if you're feeling that's difficult for your neck, feel what it's like to roll your head to the left. Open the chest. Let your right arm relax as well. It could be spanning wide. It could be resting the hand on the outer left leg on the sand or closer to the knee. Slow, deep breaths. Now feeling where the right hip at the base is resting. Right, so you're not trying to activate the base hip. That's getting the weight bearing. Right, so you're putting the weight into the bottom leg, into that hip. Relax into it. This is a funny one. You can't really wag your tail on this one. If you try, you're held in the shape. Let your head roll back and center. Slide the sand away. Move the ball. And get ready for that second side by shifting your knees in towards the chest. Hold them in. Maybe circle. Kind of a half circle, like a smiley face movement across the back of the pelvis. Okay, the knees are in, and you're going to move your bolster. You could kick it over to the other side. For some reason, when I do the changeover, I tend to just use my arms to do that crossover, but some people probably find it wiser to do the feet. So left leg resting, and remember this midsection, the abdominals, the hips, is the movement. So you want to kind of find that the extremities are, I know they're kind of an extra efforting part of it, but it's important to have them to make the twist occur. And if you don't have them, like maybe you got one less limb or something, you're going to be working your middle a little bit more. So it's always interesting to visit with, or if it doesn't work, right, in response to your hopes. So you're trying to work with this middle body to twist. So I add my sand to the outer right thigh, and I'm letting my right arm open out to the side, turning my head to the right, finding my way through all the props that are left out here. And then the left hand could be where it feels, organically helpful, maybe on your belly, maybe this side closer to the liver, maybe that just feels good for you energetically. So feeling that crossover and slowing down. Let these final couple poses be shapes that you can breathe into and absorb, because they are beneficial. Let's hope they are, right? They have a therapeutic effect. Now also feel how there's the rotation in the chest as much as it's in the hip. Maybe it feels like it's more in the area with the sandbag, but this one could have sand at the top too on the armpit chest, so it's not any lesser than, it's still a rib cage up here. You got connections here with the upper body with the ribs. They go really high up. They go all the way up. Ribs go way high. Breathing. And I think we all know that because when we take, stressful breaths, they're usually up high in the chest. So we know we got ribs up there. But in yoga, sometimes we just relate to the obvious thick ones, but not as restorers. Okay, so taking a few more moments here, feeling where the weight is and how easy it is for you to soak in. Now slide the ball in sand. The sand should go towards the wall. I want you to push it towards the wall. If you're not using a wall today, you can put your legs up on a chair next. When you roll to that left side, you're going to go towards that fetal position, left side. Push down, come up to your hip, slide a blanket in so it's near the wall. You don't want it too far out because you're not that tall, right? So between your hips and your head, it's not that far. So sometimes we'll keep the blanket far out and go, wait a minute here. So I'm going to use a blanket on my core because I like to keep that warm. So when you sit up onto the bolster, you always have to go to the far side. The far side, remember those? Okay, so sit onto the far side of your bolster and roll to get the legs up. Okay, now when I lift up my body on the bolster, it may not seem like that impressive, but for those of us, that aren't touching the wall with our seat, it's fine. You're getting inverted. It's okay if you don't have your sitting bones at the wall. I don't, okay? And my teacher teaches it with a block between the bolster and the wall. So you can try that too. But if the bolster's not quite at the wall, that's great. Okay. So take a sandbag, wrestle with your sand, bend the knees, and see if you can place the sand on the soles of the feet, separate the feet, and lift up. Unless you want the sand to fall between, then separate the feet. Okay, if you have a blanket and if you also have an eye pillow, you can place that blanket across the core and you can put an eye pillow on or let your eyelids be your eye pillows for today. Center the chest, simple and pure, and let the weight of your head nod from side to side. And feel when you nod to one side, if there's more weight on one side when you rest back, with your brain, that area. And then you find the center. Breathing slow. Yeah, we've done quite a nice amount of circulation up into the upper lobes of the lungs and spread out in the ribs. So feeling where your awareness lands through the bones. And then even deeper to your focus inside. The essence of restoring. Breathing, emptying, and letting go. umpteen letting goes. So feeling the natural arch of the spine at the base. Breathing through the nose, focus. Doming the belly. And now shifting the feet away from the wall, so they just shift a little bit away. And then if you have the blanket on the center, I would just leave it. It's a nice extra kind of squeeze into the abdominal organs. They can use that because we want to work on shapes that, kind of reorganize the spaces that we breathe into, but also the circulation, massaging the organs. So when you bend the knees, you could toss your sand overhead. You might reach up to it and help it along and then roll to your side. You might go back and forth to squish into the kidneys. And then when you roll to the side, really turn and push and come up. Yeah, that's probably the best experience is to get into that circulation coming out from being on your back. And let's take a moment sitting at the bolster, on the bolster, and levelize the reach here of the sides of the heart, closing your eyes. Feel that natural lift just for yourself. Just see if you can hold space to center. All you can center is just yourself. Kind of the center of the universe. Bring the hands to balance in front of your heart center. And let's line up a breath together, breathing in wellness from all of us in this virtual space. And with exhalations, bowing into the space behind your heart. In gratitude to you all, namaste.